One of our newest sponsors, Adam, is the Waza Flow soccer team. The Waza Flow roster is made up of players from all over the globe that have played collegiately and professionally in the United States and abroad. Countries represented on the Waza Flow roster include Albania, Brazil, Bosnia, Canada, Kenya, Malta, Mexico, Romania, Serbia, the United States, and Yemen. The Waza Flow will be part of the Major Arena Soccer League 2 and will play in the Eastern Division against teams from Cincinnati, Chicago, Muskegon, Denver, and Colorado Springs. So for all information regarding the Waza Flow, go definitely check them out. wazaflow.soccershift.com. That's wazaflow.soccershift.com. Go check them out. The Major Arena Soccer League.
This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
How's the Detroit Sports Podcast going?
Hey, everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Welcome in, everybody. Hopefully this broadcast was better than the Super Bowl that we all saw on Sunday. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me for another edition of Doc and Jock is my cousin, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz? NBA trade season, baby.
Dude, what the hell are the Pistons doing? Like honestly, what are we doing here? Like, the Pistons aren't even on our rundown, but now I feel like we have to talk about the Pistons.
Of course we have to open with
What the
them.
hell are they doing?
You're not happy?
No, I don't understand any of these trades. None of this makes sense to me. Thon Maker? What? What are we talking about?
Okay.
You got the dude from L.A. I can't even pronounce his name.
Svi, baby.
Yes, thanks.
Svi to the rescue. No, here's what they're doing, okay? Step one, they're making moves to allow themselves a little bit more cap flexibility. Obviously, these moves are going to have some impact, but not major.
So we're going out next season and signing somebody for $2.6 million?
They're starting the deconstruction. They're starting the process of saying, okay, we got to reshape the roster, get rid of guys that are not producing. Look, obviously, Reggie Bullock, you could argue that the Pistons could have gotten more, but similar to the Golden Tate trade for the Lions, you realize that this guy's going to command a lot of money. He can make threes, so you got something for him. And by moving Reggie Bullock, you allowed yourself a little bit more capability to trade Stanley Johnson. So these are inner working pieces that are allowing the Pistons, because of the past awful spending, because of the way the team was built, they have finally admitted it's not working, and they're making moves to try and get out from this, struggle that they've had with the cap. And look, I know Tom Gores has come out and in recent weeks has said, look, this is a team that we want to get to the playoffs and things like that. But in the meeting rooms, you know that Dwayne Casey and the new management, Ed Stefanski, he's not a bum. He's not an idiot. He's realizing, okay, we got to have guys that fit Casey's system that can shoot and actually make shots, and might change, by changing the chemistry in the room, you might get a little bit more results when you have the big two now. I think they realize, okay, because if you've listened to Gores, he hasn't included Reggie in some of the talks. He said big two, Andre and Blake. The thing that infuriates me that it's come out is, I'm sure you saw and read, I think it was an SI, Stan Van Gundy had moves available to trade Andre Drummond twice, and it got vetoed. What the hell? Rewind. Stop that shit right there. How is Tom Gores going to stop SVG from trading Andre Drummond? Everybody
Dude,
sees
that's his
it.
love child. Did you see the way he hugged him the other day in that video?
I can't see that happening. I can't see SVG being cool with that and not
Dude
blowing
is just
the whistle on
blowed
that.
out of his mind, hammered, and he's over there. I love you, Andre. Andre, come here. I love you and your hairy shoulders. Come here, give me a hug. Like, what? What?
How are you
Come on.
denying the trade? I mean, everybody sees it. He's low energy. Did you see the attendance at the last Detroit Pistons-Denver game? It was horrible. The entire upper deck was a sea of red. There was nobody there. It's an abomination in terms of how the fans have dissed the Pistons. And I think these moves are starting the very, very beginning process of reshaping the Pistons. The way they're doing it is not tanking, so I don't think it's ideal, but they're doing something, which is fine. I mean, it's something that they're trying to do to improve the squad, so I give them credit for doing it. I just think that if they do eventually make the move for Mike Conley, I would find that abhorrent. I don't think you add on contracts
that would be the stupidest thing you could do.
Exactly.
Makes no sense. Why are you going to take on an older player who has more time left on his contract? You're trying to get out from underneath Reggie Jackson's contract. Let's take on more contract? Get out of here. That would just be stupid. Absolutely stupid. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No worries.
I'm so flustered by all of this right now.
Look, you're seeing that. I know you're frustrated because everybody wants the Pistons to be further along, but they're not. And that's the part that's a struggle, is that they're building in a way that none of us really think is the ideal way. And in the end, what's going to happen is they're trying to build toward being a consistent playoff team. Obviously, you see the teams like the Sixers and Boston and Toronto and Milwaukee. They're the class of the East. You're trying to build just to get into the playoffs, and nobody likes that. After 10 years, nobody's buying into that nonsense. So that's why I think you are confused and frustrated. Everybody in town, really, in the end, a lot of people don't care about the Pistons. They just are like, okay, who are the superstars? Did they trade Reggie? Did they trade Andre Drummond? No? We'll see. But in the end, nobody's buying in, and it's really embarrassing to see how the fans have reacted to the Pistons. They're not going, and really, in the end, it's hard to draw up a bunch of really honest discussion about the Pistons. I mean, yeah, you get people that are interested, but from afar, I think right now the biggest struggle that the Pistons have is nobody's buying in to Tom Gores and his act, and nobody believes that he actually knows what's going on, and they don't have confidence that he's going to build a team that's going to be a winner. You don't have confidence in here, do you?
No, I don't. You're spot on. You're spot on.
Thon, Maker, and Svi.
Yeah, that's what that pause was.
Wow.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I think the thing that frustrates me the most is I think Reggie Bullock's a very good player. I think he's going to be a very good player going forward. You're going to give up on a guy that you took in the second round, a guy who looks productive. And we've seen this before with the Pistons, where they draft a guy in the second round. Turns out he's pretty decent, and then they move him for nothing in return. Like, what are you going to do with Svi? What are you going to what's the end goal here? Is he an expiring contract? I haven't even looked at his contract yet. I mean, are you going to get rid of him next year? So now you're just giving up a player to get a second round pick and a guy who you can just kind of throw by the wayside. Here's what's embarrassing. I'm so frustrated by the way this organization is handling things, and I'm frustrated by the fact that our owner is on the court, hammered out of his mind every game that he's in town, and he just makes an embarrassment out of himself.
Here's what I think is frustrating you. It's not the 2018-2019 season. It's the Pistons collectively. Because you look at it now, the Clippers...
It's like the last 5 or 6 years.
Exactly. Just look at what happened across the NBA. The Sixers just gave the Clippers 4 picks.
It's nuts.
Why couldn't the Pistons do that?
What they got for Tobias Harris was absolutely crazy.
They flipped Tobias Harris for a great deal. Why? Because the Sixers realized, wow, Tobias Harris could be the piece. And I think that's where, when you look at it from that point of view, like, wow, nobody wants to be the guy that sells the home for $12,000 and then realizes 3 years later somebody just did a couple wrench moves and kind of added a couple granite top and then sells the house for $80,000. Mm-hmm. You're like, damn, I was pimped. I was in a situation where the Pistons got fleeced for Tobias Harris, and you realize, wow, what do we get? Blake Griffin. And we're under 500, and we have to deconstruct a team. Whereas the Clippers, they're making boss moves. They're deconstructing in a way where you could go, oh, multiple picks, multiple first-round picks. Oh, you got Tobias Harris, and then you, in essence, flipped him. And what did the Pistons do? Now we're in a spot now where the Pistons can't spend money. The Pistons are trying to get guys that are young and cheap and trying to sell the fan base on being successful. That's the big problem. That's where you're frustrated and I'm frustrated, where you realize, wow, we're now seeing the deconstruction of the team, but unfortunately, the Pistons are in foreclosure, and you're getting offers that are like, I want to give you $12,000 on that $100,000 house. The Pistons are like, damn, can you give us 15?
That's what it feels like, though.
That's what it is.
This is exactly what it feels like.
We're trying to just unload shit for low prices. Others are taking that shit and making it really something that's going to be workful for them. The Clippers are in a better spot than the Pistons, and that's where I think the frustration lies, is that everyone realizes that the Pistons need to be deconstructed, but the people doing it, nobody has faith in, and it's going to be a long time before the Pistons be successful, because you don't have shooters. You just let go of your shooter, and you're going to expect a guy that averages 3 points to come in and get more minutes and average 12.
And that's the thing too, right? If you look at what your head coach needs, Look, you look at what Dwayne Casey's offense and how it runs and what it's predicated on. It's predicated on outside shooting, right? And you need to get perimeter jump shots. You've got nobody. Like, you have nobody. This offense is stagnated by a guy like Andre Drummond, who needs the ball within 5 feet of the basket to be effective. You know, Blake Griffin can only do so much. At what point does he break down? Because that's his calling card. I don't think he's going to stay healthy for the entire season. Do you? No. If you do, I want some of what you're sipping on, because there's no way Blake's going to stay healthy for the whole season. They're already having to sit him out games just to try to rest him so he doesn't break down the stretch. On top of that, you've got nobody else. Who, Luke Kennard's going to step up now? Luke Kennard. Like, anybody impressed by Luke Kennard?
Oh, that scared me.
Anybody? Nobody.
He's a starter now.
Nobody's impressed by Luke Kennard. You're right, and now he's your starter. He's your starter.
Oh, man.
That's your guy. The way this team is constructed, it's piss poor, and it's piss poor management coming down from the top, from Goris. I think Stefanski might be okay. This is just going by what he did last year with the draft, right? You look at the picks that he picked up last year in the draft, and Bruce Brown looks like a really good player. Looks like he can do some things for this team. And you got to remember too, he was a late second round pick, if I recall correctly, and you're getting some production from that. So I want to give Stefanski a chance. I want to give him some credit because he's able to make it work with at least that guy in a later pickup in the second round. But what is going on with Tom Goris meddling with what these GMs have to do is abysmal. And honestly, Stefanski still hasn't been named general manager. We just all assume that he's running the show. Now, you do realize that, right? This is a team without an actual general manager, but somehow they're facilitating trades.
Because I just gotta think about this with Tom Goris, because obviously he sees the pros in Andre Drummond, a double-double machine, a guy that can rebound. But why is he not willing to see the negatives? I mean, everybody saw, and everybody continues to see that from consistency standpoint, he doesn't bring energy game in and game out. There are games where he loafs. There are games where he doesn't bring the energy. Same as Reggie Jackson. Now he's turned it around. He's had an uptick in his performance.
Does Reggie feel like a cancer to you? He feels like a locker room cancer to me.
I just feel like he's a guy that needs a change of scenery, and I think that people now realize what he is. He's a backup that you paid starter money to. And we said that when he first came here, that this guy was basically, and from our assessment, all we have labeled him as throughout his tenure here has been Westbrook's backup that got paid. That's all he's been. That's his ceiling, is that he was a backup and he's been given. Now, obviously, Casey knows it. He sees it. He's obviously taken away minutes and realizes that late in games, probably Reggie Jackson's not the guy that you want running your offense. But in the end, here's the thing. It's a mismatch. It's an opportunity now for Reggie Jackson probably to get out. Hopefully, maybe he will say something to move along. But I just don't understand why Tom Goris loves this big guy. What does he remind him of? Hakeem? Does he remind him of a player that he likes in the past? Hakeem Olajuwon, I'm speaking of. What is it that is preventing Tom Goris from seeing the negatives of Andre Drummond? Everybody sees it. That this guy's not worth $25 million plus. Come on now. In the new NBA, maybe 10 years ago when there was a little bit more emphasis on the big guy, this is a guy that obviously from time to time loafs and doesn't get the job done. Yeah, his owner loves him. How crazy and how lucky is Andre Drummond?
Let me ask you this. If there was a legitimate offer out there for Andre Drummond, do you think Tom Goris would prevent Stefanski from making that move?
I think so. I think he still do it because he keeps saying
he did it to Stan Van Gundy.
Yeah.
You said what, twice?
Yeah. I think
at this point, I don't think he does, though. I think Tom Goris realizes he made a mistake. At least I hope so. And again, this could be the hopeful Piston fan in me. I think Tom Goris realizes he maybe made a mistake by preventing Stan Van Gundy from pulling the trigger on trading Andre Drummond. This is the best way I can describe what Andre Drummond is. Andre Drummond would be an incredible NBA player 10 years ago. He's a relic. It sucks to say that because he is so young, right? He's only 25, but he's a relic in what the new NBA is. He doesn't fit with what's going on with these different types of offenses. The guy's great at cleaning up the boards, right? He's good at defending the rim, but he doesn't have an outside shot. He doesn't have a perimeter game. He's got to be facilitated underneath the basket. And the NBA has moved on to positionless basketball. I mean, your centers now control the ball 45% of the time. Like, they bring the ball up the court. Let that sink in, guys. Your center, your big guy, the guy who kind of lumbers around and looks like an oaf out there, he is now your physically most talented player on your team, a la Anthony Davis. You know, this is a guy who's a center by position, but he handles the ball 40-some% of the time, and he has no problem bringing it up. Could you ever see a day where Andre Drummond has to bring the ball up the court? Dude, it's going to look like Jerry Stackhouse back when the Pistons wore teal, bouncing a ball off of his knee and off of his foot. It would be horrible. Absolutely abysmal.
And like we've talked about, Tom Gores is representing himself as a fanboy, a guy that likes to hug his players, interrupts interviews, throws T-shirts in the crowd, the minimal crowd that's there at Little Caesars Arena.
The 8 guys.
I just think he said it, though. He was honest. He said in clips that we've played here and elsewhere that, you know what, the Pistons aren't doing enough to draw a crowd there. And now they're starting to slowly rebuild it, but I think it's going to take a long time. Like I said, I think that the best course of action is a complete implosion. Tank it out, lose it out, and get yourself in the sweepstakes, maybe to get a Zion Williamson. But it's just a situation in which that's what I think is most disappointing, is that you and I are realizing they're building for the playoffs, not for a championship.
But wait, hold up. Do you realize what you just said, too? You want to tank for Zion.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to add Zion to this team.
Yeah.
So now you've got 3 guys that are giants and
the all giant team.
right. Like, okay, so Blake doesn't have to play close to the basket, right? But
you don't think Zion will put asses in the seats?
I think he would, but you've got Andre Drummond here. So what do you need another center for?
There's a chance
what do you need another big guy for?
Maybe in the summer someone makes him an offer that blows him away.
Zion, well, that's what you're hoping for. And Zion, for as good as he is, Zion has to work on a perimeter game, has to work on outside shooting. I mean, he's a beast in and around the basket, but you've got a guy like that. That's Andre Drummond. So you don't want Zion. You need somebody else. You need some type of a guard, or you need some type of power forward. You need something that can help stretch the floor. If you can get a stretch 4 who is money from three-point land, that's what you need to add to this team. If you can go get a legit point guard, go get a point guard so we can dump Reggie Jackson in the dumpster fire that he is, go get that guy. If you can get a 2-guard who can spot up and just take bombs from three-point land and make them, grab that guy. If you can get a guy who can create his own shot. Do you see how many holes this team has?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just going off the top of the head. Just off the top of the head. You get a guy who can create his own shot, go get that guy. You don't need Zion here. Zion, like as much as everybody points to Zion, like he's going to be great. Yeah, he probably will be great. But he would be horrible here because you already have that guy. His name's Andre Drummond. You have that relic. You're paying him $25 million a year right now. And he likes to sit there and mess around with girls that are on Nickelodeon. And he's got hairy shoulders.
Couple quick hitters before our first break. Second segment, we're going to break down the Super Bowl, the abomination that was the 5-hour experience that took place last Sunday. Holy cow, it was terrible.
The abomination that was the 5-hour experience.
It was terrible.
I love the verbiage.
It was terrible. I'm going to tell you my experience with it, too, because I was in pain. I was hurting, too.
Were you hungover?
No. I was full.
I was full.
I was full of food.
You ate so much.
I ate a lot.
Yeah, I want to talk about what you had to eat. We'll discuss that coming up after the break.
Couple quick hitters. Does Anthony Davis end up with the Lakers past this week? Does he get traded to the Lakers?
He doesn't get traded to the Lakers. It sounds like the Lakers are out. The Lakers, it sounds like they've made legitimate offers for this guy.
Massive offers.
And New Orleans was like, no, we're good. But I think he does end up with the Lakers, but it'll be next year.
Will Reggie Jackson be a Piston after the trade deadline?
God, I hope not. I hope he gets traded someplace. Him and a box of Pumas. Somebody pick them up. Let's go. And they really only want the new Pumas. That's all. They don't really want Reggie. I think he'll probably be one. I don't want him to be one. Piston fan in me says, go away. Take him and take the Pumas. You can get rid of him. Drop him off somewhere on 75. Just take the Pumas. Go.
Do you think the Knicks made the right move by trading Porzingis?
Oh, dude, I'm so glad you brought this up. What? What is going on? You know who made the right move? Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban's a stud. I wish our owner was like Mark Cuban. I think our owner wants to be like Mark Cuban, but has no idea how to be like Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban's a freaking G. He's a G for sure. That's a capital G. Kristaps Porzingis goes into a meeting. Let me set this up for you guys if you haven't heard. Goes into a meeting roughly around 2:45 in the afternoon. I think it was like on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. Goes into this meeting, and says, you know what, guys, I'm not really sure it's going to work out for me here. You're not putting enough around me so we can win. Mind you, Porzingis is injured right now. He's hurt. So he hasn't been playing at all anyways. And the Knicks and their brain trust with Dolan over there are like, okay, cool. 327 hits. And there's a report out there that Porzingis is being traded to Dallas. So not even an hour goes by, and Porzingis is getting shipped off to Dallas. Mind you,
it's an OG move because he realizes the Knicks aren't going anywhere. I think it's smart.
It's great for him. I don't know what the Knicks were doing. It makes no sense. But for Dallas, I think the feather in the cap is for Dallas because they are set up now
but there's a
to
risk.
have a monster team.
He is coming
next
off of
year.
injury.
He is.
Now, granted, he has to be healthy.
That's fine.
The Knicks, though, what they did was they got the opportunity to go buy 2 max players. That's what they wanted. You don't think that's great?
Who the hell wants to go play in New York?
KD, Kyrie.
Get the hell out of here.
You don't believe?
No. Get the hell out of here. If you're KD, why would you leave arguably the greatest team in NBA history?
Okay.
Why?
Let's say it's not that. What about Kemba and Jimmy Butler?
Why? Why would you want to go to New York?
Better than what you have. People are going to take someone's money. They're going to take the Knicks' money.
You're right. Somebody will take the Knicks' money. But if you're those guys, why would you want to go play there? Why? It doesn't make sense to me to go there and play. I get what you're saying, right? And money makes men do crazy, crazy things. And you throw enough money at somebody, they're going to do some dumb shit. If I'm Kemba Walker, I don't want to go play in New York. I don't want to go play for James Dolan. Why? He's an idiot. He's an awful owner. You have to count on this guy putting the right guys around you when he had the unicorn, right? He had the unicorn, and he just traded the unicorn away for some spare parts. Like, what are we talking about? That's the guy who you want to trust to help build around you and give you a max deal? No, I'm good, homie. I'm good. And if I have my choice, I'll take less and go play in Philly. Billy's got a squad. Billy's going to be a good team. I'll take less, go play in Philly.
One last thing. Miles Bridges has entered the NBA dunk contest. Is he a shoo-in? Is he the number one guy that you think is going to win, take down the NBA dunk contest? His dunks have been thunderous this year.
Is what is it? Zach LaVine? Is he still in it? Is he? Did he re-up for this year? I haven't paid any attention to what's going on with the All-Star break. Give me 1 second. Let me pull some stuff up. You talk about the greatness that Miles Bridges has done this year.
I've been impressed with Bridges and Jaren Jackson. I think that I'm still disappointed. We'll talk about Michigan State in the later half of the podcast, looking at some concerns, some massive concerns now, 3-game losing streak. And you realize, Nick Ward's getting the Jaren Jackson treatment, only 20 minutes played versus Illinois. And I'm like, oh my God, here we go again. He's in the doghouse. But now you see Miles Bridges and Jaren Jackson and their early contribution to their squad. You know, obviously the Pistons could have had Miles Bridges. Do they have him on the roster? No, they don't.
No. So I've got the four. It looks like 4 contestants. So Miles Bridges, John Collins.
Good luck. A name you never heard of.
Hamdo Dallo,
sure,
from the Thunder, and Dennis Smith Jr.
Okay.
Yeah, at this point, looking
Miles
at
Bridges.
Yeah, Miles Bridges all day long. Hey, safe money is on Miles Bridges for sure.
All right, we're gonna come back.
For sure. Wait, hold on, real quick. Does it frustrate you as a Michigan State fan to see what Jaren Jackson and Miles Bridges are doing in the NBA, and to be like, this talent was on this roster last year and just couldn't get it going?
It's great that Tom Izzo can groom young cats for the NBA, but I think Spartan fans want to see production on the court for the Spartans, and it's disappointing. And look, I've kind of rebuffed the notion that Tom Izzo is overrated. Stay tuned for the end of the podcast. I'll give my updated thoughts on what Tom Izzo's been doing when we talk about college basketball. First time out, we're going to come back and discuss the Super Bowl. What the hell happened? The Rams and the Patriots put on a display. And if you're a CBS exec, you're not happy seeing that your station paid a bunch of money for the Super Bowl, and unfortunately, you're probably not going to get as much of a return as you would have liked because the ratings were down. Not a good look, and it was just a game. Even Tony Romo and Jim Nantz couldn't spin their way out of it. It was a turd game, and everybody's talking about it, as will we, right after this. Adam, I want to tell you about a great sponsor of the network, the Motor City Pawnbrokers. The Motor City Pawnbrokers are the one-stop pawn shop when you're in need of short-term cash or are looking for quality brand name new and pre-owned merchandise. With locations in Detroit, Ferndale, Roseville, and Warren, their mission is to deliver exceptional value. Trust us, the crew at Motor City Pawnbrokers, they're looking to change the perception of pawn shops. Go into one of the locations, very clean. They have a very friendly staff. Go check out all the happenings and all the great deals available at MotorCityPawnBrokers.com. So, Adam, and looking at the Super Bowl, I mean, a lot of people did say betting on the Patriots was easy money, and a lot of people made out like bandits that went to Vegas or any city now that has gambling that's legal. Many people are really saying, man, when you really looked at it, if you just look at it and the things that we say here, Tom Brady versus Jared Goff, mismatch. Bill Belichick versus Sean McVay, supreme mismatch. A guy with 33 more years of experience coaching and doing things, and it was a masterful defensive performance. Now, I will sit here and give Bill Belichick credit for that game plan. It was masterful. Him and Flores worked the Rams. I mean, they worked them over. Complete domination in terms of taking away everything that the Rams were looking to do. Bro, you realize the Rams were dropping 30 points a game on people, and they only dropped 3 versus the Patriots. And you realize, wow, with Kyle Van Noy, with a crew of defenders that many people will say, well, these guys are not all world defenders. And you saw a game that you go, wow, on that front, if you're a fan of defense, great. And I am. I thought that it was a masterful performance. Bill Belichick is a wizard. Obviously, when you ship out your weakness in Matt Patricia, your team gets better. And obviously, that's what happened. And you realize...
Shots fired.
In essence, that was a sly move. He got rid of some of the dead weight, or the fat weight, as you want to look at it.
More shots fired.
But in terms of viewership, you got to look at it from the perspective of you have a bunch of people that are watching at home that are drunk, that are eating a ton of food. I ate like pizza rolls, I ate chips, I ate pretzels, I ate sandwiches, I ate chips and guac, chips and salsa.
Mind you, just a reminder, guys, John has been on a diet.
Yeah,
I think you're down, 15 pounds since last year, which is awesome.
But
and you just tacked on another 7. so net weight loss, 8 pounds.
By the time kickoff happens, I'm like, oh, I'm starting to feel it. I'm like, okay, here we go. And you're waiting, but
you splurged early, man.
The Super Bowl did not do enough to take away the pain. There were one offensive play in the red zone the entire game. And you realize, wow, a 3-0 halftime score, and it finishes 13-3. And it was a massive disappointment. You can't sit here and tell me you're not a fan of the NFL if you didn't appreciate that. It was a boring game to watch on television, especially for someone like me who gets excited for the commercials for the last 3 years. And some people will say it's because of the PC culture. Whatever the reason is, something needs to happen with these commercials. These ad people are putting together garbage. I don't like any of them. Obviously, the T-Mobile one caught my attention. It was funny. But for the most part, I don't care about Game of Thrones. I don't care about corn in my beer. I don't care about all this other nonsense that happened. The commercials suck.
And they were bad.
They were awful.
Good.
So the entire experience for me, when you say, well, what did you think of the Super Bowl? I thought it was a god-awful experience. I felt like it was a wasted sporting experience, and it brought back memories of watching Lions games. And what did we want? What did we all expect? What were we all hoping for? A different experience, a culmination of a season that was offensive, that was awesome. Great offensive games. I mean, everyone remembers, the Chiefs and the Saints and their offensive performances, some of the performances that the Rams had. It just culminated in a bunch of shit that I just think was disappointing, and it left me wanting more. And it was just a 13-3 game. Great for the Patriots. They get their 6th ring. But all in all, for the viewers that watched that, great disappointment, massive disappointment on a lot of levels.
I think the best part of the Super Bowl was the halftime show. And it wasn't even the entire halftime show, because Maroon 5 was garbage. And I like Maroon 5. I like cheesy, crappy pop music.
I don't think it was garbage. The sound was garbage.
If you don't know, I love boy bands.
Okay.
Like, I will go to a New Kids on the Block concert and I will scream and dance my ass off. I will go to an NSYNC concert or a Backstreet Boy concert and I will have a blast. I love cheesy pop music. I do. I don't know why. I just do. It's my thing. So Maroon 5, I was looking forward to this. I was like, okay, cool. I sat there. I had to go pee. I sat there and I was like, let's watch this. Let's be entertained. I held my pee for 20 minutes waiting for this. The best part of the halftime show was Travis Scott. Travis Scott, the whole thing with SpongeBob, and then him coming down, and then he just in a ball of flames, and him come up, and then he starts swearing. There were long moments where there was zero music because Travis Scott gave none. He was like, I am changing none of my lyrics. I will cuss as much as I want. And you know what you got? You got silence. You had a guy rapping on television, and you got silence. He was the best part of the entire Super Bowl. His one song was the best part of the entire Super Bowl. As far as the game goes, now, they're not mutually exclusive, right? It can be a boring game and still be a good game, okay? The game itself was not entertaining at all. There was no big hits. There was no big momentum swings. There was nothing where you were like, oh my God, that was awesome. Nothing eye-popping. Nothing caught your attention. It was like turning something on and just having background noise. That's what the Super Bowl was. There was no moment of awe. You just watched. The biggest hit was Todd Gurley smashing into Patrick Chung and breaking his arm, and you hearing his arm snap. The mics on the field picked it up.
Yeah.
You heard it. You knew the moment he laid on the ground, you're like, oh, his arm's broken. Because you heard it snap in half when Todd Gurley put his helmet down and smashed into him. That was the biggest hit of the game, guys.
And remember, Patrick Chung is a leader on that defense, and they just roll along and continue.
Yeah.
That's what the Patriots do. Because you know if Darius Slay goes down for the Lions.
Oh, you're effed. You're effed. You're absolutely effed.
Touchdowns on the next 4 drives.
For sure. The game itself was boring to watch. However, looking at it from a football perspective, it was a good game. It was you had
competitive.
Suspense. You had suspense. I mean, going right down to the final 5 minutes of that game, it was anybody's ball game. You know, the Rams were within a score.
How bad a throw was that for Jared Goff?
It was horrible. He dropped the ball.
Who's more at fault, him or Brandon Cooks, who fails to secure the ball?
So I want to talk about that play specifically because I thought Jason McCourty should have won the MVP. I don't understand how Julian Edelman wins the MVP in a game where offense really didn't matter. You had a kicker or a punter should have won the MVP if Jason McCourty didn't. Jason McCourty saved that game for the New England Patriots. He had to run across the field. He's playing in a corner position. He has to run from the far side of the field back to the middle to the end zone, and he made a great play. You go watch, slow that down. He made the only play he could make because Brandon Cooks has the ball in his hand, and he's about to come down with possession inbounds. McCourty makes the only play he can make by pushing the back arm away from the football, forcing the football to become dislodged and fall to the ground. McCourty should have been your MVP on that one play alone because he saved the game for the New England Patriots. At that time, if the Rams would have scored that touchdown there, it'd have breathed new life into them. They'd have took the lead, and I don't know if they would have gave it up because the offense for the Patriots wasn't able to get going. You had one run where you could pick up a couple yards, and it was the pass to Gronk where he fell down, I think, at like the 2 or the 3 yard line. Next thing you know, Sony Michel is running it into the end zone. That was the only offensive splurge that you've seen from the New England Patriots pretty much the entire afternoon. That one play by McCourty saved that game and gave the Patriots the Super Bowl. He should have been your MVP if it wasn't a kicker or a punter because those guys got work. They got a ton of work. I mean, when the highlight is from Jim Nantz celebrating with Tony Romo that a punter just set a record in a Super Bowl for the longest punt, let that tell you what this game was. It was a defensive duel. It was a defensive slugfest. Me and you both like defensive football. This was defensive football. It was boring. It was a good game, but it was boring. And the fact that you get excited about a punter kicking a ball tells you all you need to know.
What happened to the Rams and McVay? Because people are speculating what really happened with Todd Gurley. Only 10 touches. He wasn't really used as a decoy even in the passing game. This is a guy that can pass. This is a guy that can help your offense by catching the ball, getting yards after the catch. Arguably one of the best running backs, the top 2 in the entire NFL. And many people are speculating that he was hurt, but the Rams came out and said, no, this guy's healthy. This guy can do some things. But in the end, he just wasn't effective. And throughout the playoffs, I think one of the biggest surprises throughout the entire course of the NFL playoffs was what the hell happened to Todd Gurley and how did Sean McVay so epically fail to put together an offensive scheme that could do something?
I think he is hurt. I think he's wore down. You have to remember how much they utilized him throughout the regular season.
Ran out of gas.
He was just, there would be games where they'd be up by 3 touchdowns and Todd Gurley's still getting trotted out there and he's making plays and he's downing the ball at the 1. And everybody's like, why are you downing the ball at the 1? You're hurting my fantasy team. What are you doing? Score that. He was overused. I think his knee bothered him. Remember, when he first came out, he had a bad knee injury. He had a bad knee injury when he was at in Georgia. So I think the knee bothered him. I think it flared up. I don't think they were ever able to get the swelling down enough to where he could run comfortably. And I think he was gassed. And that sounds weird to say that he was gassed out over 2 and 3 weeks. But sometimes your body just has enough. And all those hits and all that running just kind of takes its toll on you. And you need an offseason to recover. And I think that's where Todd Gurley and the Rams were. You know, the fact that they were able to go out and get C.J. Anderson, and C.J. Anderson was able to step in and play so well, I think kind of hid some of Todd Gurley's, I guess, tired legs or ill-fatedness as it comes to the game plan and being able to be utilized. Like, if they didn't have C.J. Anderson and he wasn't as productive as he was, we'd be talking about something totally different right now. But C.J. Anderson was able to kind of grease that wheel, and Todd Gurley was able to get inserted very limitedly and play just enough. And I think it was just because McVay didn't manage him properly. You know, this is the one thing that Matt Patricia talks about, and this is the one thing we got on Matt Patricia about. Matt Patricia ran the Lions, ran them hard. But you know what? You look at the way the season played out. And I'll give Matt Patricia credit when he deserves it. And I will take him to the bank when he screws up and when I disagree with something he's done. He ran them hard to start the season. He ran them hard early in the season. But if you watch the way the season played out, that was probably the most physically fit Detroit Lions team you have seen on a field in a long time. They never looked tired in the fourth quarter. They never look at. They would be getting their asses handed to them. Just look at the Jets game. All right, the first game of the season, they would be getting their asses handed to them. But there was no quit in that team as far as being beat because you were tired. They never looked tired, even in week 17 in the fourth quarter. They didn't look tired.
I want to pump the brakes on those that are severely criticizing Sean McVay. Look, he took Jared Goff to the Super Bowl.
Right.
This guy is only 33 years old, and he comes from lineage, and I do think he'll be a perennial coach that has his team in the playoffs, and I do think he'll eventually get one because he's going to work hard. He's going to learn from this. But don't discount Bill Belichick. This is the greatest head coach in the history of sports. He is a guy that, for whatever faults that he may have in terms of being gruff, not great with the media, maybe tried to broom out Tom Brady. Look, even though there are faults that he has, the guy, if you give him a week, you give him an extra 2 weeks, you give him time, he'll put together a game plan that will put people in position. Look, Kyle Van Noy gets traded. You know, the Lions get nothing essentially for him. You get a low-end draft pick for Kyle Van Noy. He goes there and makes plays. And you realize, wow, you know, Adrian Waddle was a lineman here with the Lions, goes to the Patriots. And what do you see? You see Tom Brady basically be clean. Now, he was hit a little bit more in the Super Bowl, but I want to ask you this. With that performance that you just watched with Bill Belichick and what he's able to do, if he should decide that, you know what, Tom Brady, it's time, and they eventually part ways, do you think he could reach that level of success again in the Super Bowl, win a Lombardi trophy without Tom Brady? Because basically you did see a little sign of it and opened up that discussion because Tom Brady was awful. He was god-awful, one of his worst performances, and yet a defensive scheme was built to stop one of the greatest offenses that we've seen. Does it give credence to the fact that maybe it kind of lends the argument now to say maybe more of the credit goes to Bill Belichick for the Patriots than Tom Brady? Maybe like 60-40?
You do realize that Bill Belichick has never won a Super Bowl without Tom Brady.
But I think he could. I think without Tom Brady, he would have a team that could eventually make a run.
What you're saying is he would have to get another quarterback who is severely disciplined.
For me,
this is the thing, right? Mm-hmm. Before you go, this is the thing. Tom Brady, as bad as that game was going, Tom Brady was disciplined in everything he did.
Measured.
He didn't try to force a ball. He had one pick early in the game, but he didn't try to force a ball. He didn't try to play outside of it. You watch Stafford play. When things are going rough and are sliding a little bit, Stafford's trying to force balls in there. He's trying to force a play, leads to turnovers, leads to bad field position. Tom Brady didn't do that. Tom Brady played his game. He knew whatever he had to do, he just got it done, and the defense would take care of the rest. You're right. Bill Belichick could probably win one with somebody else because of the defensive scheme and the way he's able to dial things up and especially confuse a young quarterback. Jared Goff was confused out there, had no idea what the hell was going on because he's young. Bill Belichick was showing 9 guys coming, sending 4. Showing 4 guys coming, sending the house. Jared Goff had no idea what the hell was going on. There were plays that were open downfield because they would send 9 guys in to pressure him, and Jared Goff double pumped the ball and was scared to throw it, leading to sacks. That's how bad Bill Belichick messed with his mind. Bill Belichick is a genius.
Yeah, and I that's what I say going into it. I would have said it was 50-50.
But I don't think he can do it without Tom Brady.
I would have said it was 50-50. Now I kind of give Bill Belichick the extra 5. 55-45.
Look at this, too. Well, you were talking about Sean McVay, right? Sean McVay is you. You're young. You're a young pup. You're new to everything. This is your first time playing in this game, right? It's like going up against your grandfather, who is the 6-time world champion at checkers. He's a world champion at checkers. And you're like, you know what, Granddad? Let's sit down on a Sunday and let's just play a game. Let's just play a game. And your granddad's like, well, you know I'm 6-time world champion, right? And you're like, it's cool. I just want to play you in checkers. I want to see how good I am. Your granddad's like, well, I'm going to whip your ass. And you're like, no, I don't think so. I'm pretty good too. Let's see what happens. And you play your granddad. And you don't win, but you take him to the limit. You take him to the limit and you make it interesting. And you know what? He looks at you and he's like, good job, kid. You'll be there again. You did a great job. You're good at this. You'll probably win a world championship at some point.
So how long do
Sean McVay.
How long do the Patriots rule the roost? How long are they going to be a dynasty in the NFL?
How long is Tom Brady going to play, and how long is Bill Belichick going to coach? Because I think as long as you have these two guys,
They're in the mix.
good luck. Because like I just said, Tom Brady gets it. Tom Brady understands. Why do you think Tom Brady takes less to play there? Tom Brady could go anywhere and get a deal massively, massively bigger than what Matt Stafford gets. But he doesn't. He doesn't. He restructures his contract every year because the Patriots are like, hey, we need more money so we can go get another guy who's going to do some other things because we don't have enough. Mind you, as the season rolled on, the Patriots realized that they didn't have a deep threat on offense. They had nobody. So what did they do? They went on and got Josh Gordon. How many games did Josh Gordon play? Like 2 or 3, right? So they changed their entire offensive scheme to accommodate Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon's like, oh, hey, I'm still having addiction problems. I got to go. And Josh Gordon checks out. Next thing you know, the offensive scheme has to change again. The Patriots are so damn good at adjusting on the fly. They will always be in the mix for as long as those two are there. For as long as those two are there. I think Brady says he wants to play, till he's 45, right? That's 4 more years? I think they win maybe 1 or 2 more Super Bowls. Let that sink in, guys. 1 or 2 more Super Bowls. And I'm hedging my bets here. I really want to say they win 3 more, but I think they win 1 or 2 more Super Bowls. That's how crazy good it is. Look, Gronk looked like the goddamn Tin Man out there. Somebody need to put some oil in his joints and get him lubricated. And not lubricated with beer, because if you watched any of that parade, he was pretty well lubricated. But he looked like the damn Tin Man out there. Could hardly move around. He made one big play. All the rest of that was dink and dunks to Edelman to kind of just chew up pieces of the field. It was Sony Michel running really, really well, actually. Running really, really well. Scoring a touchdown. And then after that, it was put it on the defense. Let's ice this game. Put it on the defense. Let's ice this game. And he dialed up the craziest stuff you've ever seen to confuse a young quarterback. They've got so much talent and they have no talent all at the same time. It's amazeballs because they just take pieces, take guys. Like, look at that team. You know how many Pro Bowlers are on that team? There's one. There's one. One defensive Pro Bowler, and I think it's McCourty. That's it. Everybody else is just a guy on that team. And he puts them in spots because he's so damn smart and understands how the game is played that they win. And he's got a quarterback who keeps everything even-keeled. Tranquilo. As Andrade Cianalma says, tranquilo. Just keeps it very tranquilo and plays his role.
Before our final timeout and our discussion about Michigan State and some concerns and looking at Michigan and Michigan State basketball, we'll talk more about it in future episodes. But should the bullseye be placed on one Patriot free agent for the Detroit Lions, Trey Flowers? Should that be the guy that you target, right then and there? That's a guy that can come in and right away understand what Patricia's trying to do and add to the defense that you're trying to build. Should that be target free agent number 1 for the Lions? Yes or no?
I'll say yes.
I think so too.
I'll say yes because
he has to be targeted.
Yeah, he's a guy who's been there, done that, and he's a guy who could he could lend a lot
Seems
of
like a
credibility.
perfect fit, right?
Yes.
Right now it's a fit like a glove.
Yes.
And we'll look more at it. But I think right away, people are now starting to wonder, okay, the defensive coordinator is going to Miami. You could pinch some players. There's some free agents. Maybe you can go and maybe make some fair offers too and bring them here to help the Detroit Lions in their efforts to create the Patriot way. So we'll see. Stay with us. Final timeout. You're listening to Doc and Jock on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I want to tell you guys about our host site, Podomatic.com. When Adam and I first started this project, we were looking for a great place to host all of our recorded audio. And up until this point, we've recorded over 1,300 weekly podcasts. And we've grown this network because we have great content, great interviews, great sports debate, and we bring it every single day. We wouldn't have reached the level of success that we had if we did not have a great host site. So if you're looking to start a brand new project, a brand new podcast, all the hosts here on the network, we're going to recommend one host site and one host site alone, Podomatic.com.
1,300.
Nice, huh?
1,300 episodes we've recorded.
And how many playoff wins have we talked about? Not a whole lot.
None.
Less than 100.
Holy hell.
We talked about the Tigers getting swept by Baltimore. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Let's not talk about that. Let's not recap the entire
that's
6-year
a lot
history.
of podcasts.
It's a lot of podcasts. And
Do you remember? I remember the Prince Fielder night.
Oh.
We just got done recording a podcast, and we go upstairs to start. You sit down to start editing. I was doing some computer stuff, some stuff for the website, and some marketing stuff. And then all of a sudden, news breaks that the Tigers acquired Prince Fielder.
Like, what? After they had told us that they weren't going to do that.
They weren't going to do it. We had to
Good times.
run back down into the basement.
Add it to it.
This is when we were doing stuff in the basement.
That's good.
And we had to add to it. It was great.
lot
That's the
of good
best thing
stuff.
about podcasts, man.
It's great, man. Good
It's
stuff.
awesome.
And if you want, go to YouTube. You can see our entire archive. Just search the 3 words, Detroit Sports Podcast. We go back all the way to the history. I think we started archiving it around episode 29. So you can hear the entire history
nuts,
of this nonsense that we created. Because I'm worried. Michigan State has lost 3 games in a row. Once the news hit that Langford was not going to return for the year, I think that Michigan State has lost their mojo. And again, it really is typical when the Spartans struggle. They don't rebound well. They get outplayed. You have a player that has talent that plays 20 minutes in Nick Ward, who's found his way back to Tom Izzo's doghouse. And you see a team in the Spartans that have lost their swagger. And maybe, just maybe, I think people are seeing it too, Cassius Winston has to be used pretty much extensively as a sole offensive threat. And if he's not on the floor, they struggle. Turnovers, and he played really bad versus really bad versus Illinois on the road. A lot of turnovers. And when the Spartans play bad, you just see the similar things that I talked about in my daily address that you can find every single day on DetroitSportsPodcast.com. They don't play well. They don't rebound, long scoring droughts. And you see situations in which you lose to the likes of Indiana and Illinois. Seriously? Panic time for Spartan Nation.
I think you can add into turnovers.
Yeah, turnovers.
The game against Illinois, the Spartans turned the ball over 24 times.
Yes.
Wait, can you remember a Tom Izzo coached offense turning the ball over 24 times? That's nuts, man. And you're right. There is no secondary scoring. It's Cassius Winston, and it's Cassius Winston right now. Nick Ward is a guy who I think all Spartan fans were really hoping had found his groove, was going to come back, was going to help add some depth at scoring. And he's had spots where he's bubbled up and you look like a bright spot, but then there are other times where it looks like somebody's turned the lights out on him. And McQuaid's another guy. McQuaid, I thought, especially when it was announced that Langford wasn't going to be able to come back, I thought McQuaid would step up, would elevate his game, and would be a guy who Michigan State looked to get the ball to, especially around the three-point arc, because he's a guy who can heat up. If he gets hot from three-point land, he instantly becomes a much more dangerous weapon, but it just hasn't worked out. And you might be right. The news that Langford's not going to be able to come back and play might have derailed this team momentarily. I think Tom Izzo will get it fixed and get it back on track. But if you're a Michigan State fan, you need to be nervous. This was a game the other night when you're taking on Illinois where I look at my phone and I'm like, okay, cool, the game's starting. And I'm like, how much interest should I really have in this game, right? Because I had a ton to do. I had a ton to do that night. Just getting stuff ready for our other podcast. You guys can check that out every single Friday, the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast. Pretty good, I think. People seem to like it. We get a lot of messages on it on Twitter, so check that out if you're into wrestling. I also had some stuff to take care of for the actual business because tax season's right around the corner, and I totally screwed up and didn't get a 1099 out in time. So my bad on that. Sorry, Vito. But I was wrapped up with stuff, and I was like, do I really want to spend the time to watch this game? Michigan State should roll Illinois. And then as the game's going on, I'm like, what's that score? I check back in, and I'm like, wow, this is a really close game. You get to halftime, and you're like, holy shit, Michigan State's down 9
To Illinois.
And you're just like, what's going on here? So, of course, you got to flip it on, and it's on as background noise. And you're just watching them turn the ball over. You're watching them get out-rebounded. You're watching them just get beat up in aspects of the game that Michigan State doesn't normally get beat up in. So if you're a Michigan State fan, you should be nervous because I think you got a couple more losses still coming your way. I'm not sure how you feel, but I think they're going to split with Michigan. It's at least a split, if not a sweep for Michigan. I think Michigan is very gettable. That's why I say it's a split, and I'll explain why when we start talking about Michigan. But I think you have at least one more loss there, and we can look at the schedule real quick. I'm not sure if this team's going to be able to go to Wisconsin and get a win. I'm not sure if this team's going to be able to go to Indiana and get a win. Indiana just popped you in your house. So the way I'm looking at it, Michigan State probably has 3 more losses coming their way. So now you're looking at a Michigan State team that's going to head into the Big Ten tournament with 8 losses. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
That's crazy, especially for a team that looks like it has so much promise.
And you realize that, Michigan State needs a lot to have things happen, basically because they're not as talented as teams like Michigan and teams that are atop of the Big Ten. Unfortunately, they're more of a squad that needs everything to work together as a team. They need everything in the working parts. And so what Tom Izzo is relying upon is Cassius Winston and McQuaid, and but you got Aarons.
You can't lean on Winston this much.
No, you can't. Too many minutes.
He's going to start to break down, and I think you're starting to see some of that armor chip away.
And then you realize a guy like Nick Ward, you would think that he's earned the right to maybe make a couple of mistakes and play a little bit more than 20 minutes. But no, Tom Izzo is super stubborn. If you don't play well or excel or show effort on the defensive end, your ass sits. And it's unfortunate because a guy like Nick Ward should kind of start to take the reins of this squad.
You would think,
and be
right?
the force and be the inside presence. But unfortunately, I think I put a lot of this on Tom Izzo. He said it in the postgame. He said, look, McQuaid can't take like 3 shots in a loss. This is a guy that's a shooter, a volume shooter, a guy that can make some shots. So how's he only getting 3 shots? It doesn't work right. And so you look at it and you say, man, Tom Izzo, people are, and like I referenced earlier, people are criticizing him for being a little bit overrated. And I don't think he's overrated. He's a quality coach. He will get a lot out of people. But I think at this point in time, we can safely say he's fallen behind Michigan. He is stubborn. He's not adapted supremely well to the new age of college basketball in terms of offense, in terms of utilizing one-and-dones properly. And here's the problem with Tom Izzo, is that he sticks to his guns so much so that I think his players come and go. I think at times players really revolt against him, and they think that, I make a mistake, I got to look at Coach Izzo, he's barking at me. Oh, I make a mistake, I got to sit on the bench. A guy like Nick Ward should be playing 28 minutes. 20 minutes for Nick Ward?
I mean, we talked about Jaren Jackson earlier in this episode. That's a guy who is in the NBA and looks like an absolute stud right now. Yet when he was here playing for Michigan State, he rode the pine a lot.
And right now, the stock for Michigan State is low. I don't think they're going to get that victory versus Michigan, even at home. I think Michigan can handle their business, and a team like Michigan's only got 2 losses in the Big Ten. State, like you said now, is 3 losses in a row in the Big Ten. I think Michigan, on principle, might only lose 1 or 2 more games max with the talent that they have if they play well. So I think the opportunity to win the Big Ten in the regular season is over.
I think Michigan maybe lose. Michigan's going to – I think they split against Michigan State. All right, so there's 1 loss there, but I think they might have another hiccup. I think Michigan State might lose, or Michigan's going to lose maybe 2 games before the Big Ten tourney. I think Michigan State, like I said, is going to lose 3. Here's the issue for Michigan, all right? This is the problem for Michigan. They have no depth. They have no depth that can get out and shoot. So the moment they get into foul trouble, all hell breaks loose. You've seen it this weekend. You've seen it in their game against Iowa. Teskey gets into foul trouble. You've got nobody to clog up the middle. You have nobody there to clog up that middle. So then what happens? Iowa's able to go inside and take advantage. They're able to go inside, then go outside and pick and pop. And Michigan doesn't have the depth. Whether Beilein hasn't been able to teach these guys what he wants them to know, or he just doesn't trust them. The bench basically stops at Livers. You've got 6 men. You have a 6-man rotation that you run as the Michigan Wolverines. And if one of those guys gets in trouble, that means everybody's playing the entire game, and you're screwed. So don't get in foul trouble if you're Michigan. And I know easier said than done, but that's what it is. That's what it comes down to for Michigan. That's my major concern with this team moving forward. They have to find some secondary scoring because it's not going to work great every single day. It really isn't. There are going to be days, again, jump shooting team. You talked about it last week on the podcast, jump shooting team. What happens when the jump shots aren't falling? You've got to be able to go inside with your guys. You got to be able to get those easy baskets. Why? Because those easy baskets cause that defense then to sag down and try to play a more concerted effort in stopping those easy baskets around the hoop, and that opens up shots for your guys around the three-point arc.
Now, when we look at Michigan, they're playing well. When they shoot well, they can play a solid brand of basketball. They defend. I think the biggest thing that people are worried about, similar to what happened in Michigan State, is if they lose one of their top guys, the depth on the team is not as good. I think I've heard after Livers, there really isn't that much.
There's nobody there. There's nobody there. I'm going to tell you right now, there's nobody there.
Nobody,
right?
That's I think I've heard.
Beilein does not want to put another guy in and give him the spot to take those shots, to do what is needed. He hasn't found a secondary option on his bench after Livers.
And I think teams also found a way maybe to disrupt Michigan a little bit by getting Teskey in foul trouble. Mm-hmm. They've realized, look, if you can get the big dog in foul trouble, maybe they'll get a little bit rattled, and you have to go to that bench and see what they have. And I think Michigan should be concerned a little bit about depth when you get to the tournament, because teams can find ways to lock down on your stars, and then that's where unsung heroes can come in. But right now, Michigan, as long as the starting rotation does well, they're elite.
Yeah, you're spot on. You just need your start. You need your starting guys.
You basically need the bench to emerge a little bit more. You need some of the reserves to get going.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. You're spot on. You've got nobody after Isaiah Livers, and that's going to be your downfall. As well as Michigan played early on, you have started to see cracks in this team. And the cracks revolve around not having enough depth, not having guys who you can put in and make shots, not having guys who, if things aren't working out well for either Teskey or Brisdakis or Simpson or Poole, where you can set those guys down on the bench for 5-10 minutes for a spell, and you can lean on somebody else. You can lean on a Luke Wilson or a Nunez, or you can lean on an Austin Davis. It's just not there with them. And whether it's because they're just not talented enough, or Beilein's not putting them in a spot, or Beilein doesn't trust them. I think it really boils down to Beilein doesn't trust what he has after Isaiah Livers, and that's not good. You're not going to win basketball games if that's the case.
Now, before we get out of here, you got a closing take on storming the court. You found that when Michigan lost their first contest, the court was stormed. I think, was it Wisconsin?
When they lost to Wisconsin, the court was stormed. When they lost to Iowa recently, the court was stormed. And Michigan State losing to Illinois the other night, the court was stormed.
Okay.
So, you're storming the court. And look, I get it, right? Those two teams, Michigan and Michigan State, generally the entire season have been number 1 or number 2 in the Big Ten. But you're storming the court against teams that are top 5 in the nation, top 10 in the nation. I don't think storming the court should be allowed unless you're a number 1 team, unless it's a big game, right? It's a reason to advance and move on to go into the tournament, right? Or it's a tournament game. There's no reason to ever storm the court. I don't understand why. Wisconsin stormed the court for Michigan. I don't understand why Illinois stormed the court for Michigan State. And I have no idea why Iowa stormed the court for beating Michigan.
Well, okay.
Doesn't make sense to
First
me.
and foremost, these are college kids, okay? And so they're looking to party. They're looking to be part of the experience. And so I think college kids just want to feel like they're part of the experience. And what better place to do it than...
Unless you're knocking off a number 1 team, number 1 in the country, what are you storming the court for?
for fun, to be part of the action.
No.
None of these guys have any
You look so
athletic
small
abilities.
time.
Do you really?
None of these guys have athletic ability. I like where you're going. Go ahead, continue. I want you to continue. Continue to pontificate. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No. I can recall memories, and this is what's great about podcasts. You can elaborate further. I can remember the first time and the feeling I had when I stepped on the Spartan football field. I was in high school, and we went on a tour of Michigan State, and I'm like, yes, this is great. I took like a college prep class in high school, and it was great. It was like a blow-off class, and all we did was talk about like filling out forms and then how to prepare for college. And I had been accepted to Michigan State in October of my senior year, so I was golden. I was set. And one day, remind me, and I'll share the story of the best case of senioritis ever possible. When you look at my grades in high school, it was like AA, A+, AAA, senior year, D, D, C, F.
What did you fail?
I think it was science. Pre-calc, calculus 2. So I took the semester off basically, and I was like, my grade point average went down from like a 4.1 to like a 3.9. So I was like, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed senioritis. But I took a field trip to Michigan State, and they were like, oh yeah, we're gonna go on the football field. And I walked on, and of course, what do you think I did? I started acting a fool, doing the Heisman, went into the S. We had a football, we were playing catch, and it was a really kind of cool feeling to be like, wow, these are where the idols come and play. And you had that feeling like, wow, this is really cool, that I'm never going to really play on, I'm never going to go into the end zone. So I made it a point to just kept, going to the 5-yard line, running into the end zone, running back and catching the ball and dancing in the end zone. It's a fun experience to do something that you're not ever going to do. So for me, if Michigan State ever were to do something massive against an Alabama or something, I'm there. Dude, I'll try it. Why not? Storm the court. You want to be part of the action because we're all little athletes. We're all dreamers at heart that love sports. We all want to be part of the deal. Don't you ever dream of, making the game-winning 3-point shot or kicking the field goal or doing something awesome for the Lions to help the city do something? You don't just sit there from time to time and daydream about doing great things athletically?
Who dreams about being a kicker?
Well, guys like me. Actually, that's the guy. That's the guy that gets the accolades. Think about it.
The kicker?
If it comes down to it and you're like, Lions down 1 in the Super Bowl.
How bad have the Lions beat you up that you want to be Jason Hansen?
54-yarder. Macaroon gets it. We all know he has a propensity to choke. Oh, the kick is up. It's good. Macaroon's a legend. Everyone's going to talk about that highlight will be the last highlight shown, and then they'll show the highlights of the quarterback. But the kicker, if you make it, can be a legend too.
I hope I have some time this week. Because I want to go and I want to cut all this up, and I want to put something together.
The legend of the kicker.
I want to put something together. I hope I have time.
All right,
this is amazing.
But that's why the legend of daydreaming about being an athlete,
and being a kicker.
Yeah, nowadays these kids are maybe like one day I want to be a podcaster like Doc. I want to be able to sit and talk in his own studio and have banners. And
who says this? I want to meet this kid. I want to meet this kid.
Well, I'm getting interviewed by a podcast in New England talking about the Lions. Yeah, the Blitz. I get messages all the time.
Are you?
Yeah.
You should tell me these things. You tell me nothing.
I just got a message. The Blitz podcast. Hey, we're doing a tour of some teams' needs and da-da-da-da. So remember, look.
What are the Lions' needs?
Obviously defensive end, offensive line.
Massive.
Depth.
Cornerback.
Mm-hmm. Remember, we all have dreams of bigger things. And
slot wide receiver.
All right, great podcast. Everybody, you can find us anywhere podcasts can be downloaded.
Linebacker.
You can follow Adam on Twitter at
possibly
Adam
a
R.
free safety or a strong safety.
Yeah, all those plays. I got to remember that so I can act like I know something.
Right.
You can follow Adam on Twitter at Adam R. STROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Feel free to leave a voicemail 248-579-8686 if you have an opinion and you want to say anything. Get over it. Get your thoughts heard worldwide. You've just downloaded the latest edition of Doc and Jock. We hope you've enjoyed it. Let's get the hell out of here. See everybody next week.
Go Wolverines. Go Blue, baby.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me. They talk to me.